Hey, what's up, guys? It's Matt from Ashes of Aries, and you're listening to or viewing Podcast of the Wicked.
I'm Bill.
I'm Metal Rose.
I'm Dave English.
I'm Dave.
And you're listening to Podcast of the Wicked. And today we have Matt Barlow on the show. We have a couple of questions for you, Matt, and then we have a bunch of questions from some of the fans in the Iced Earth community.
Okay.
So my first question is, what was the inspiration behind the album and song title New Messiahs?
Well, the album wasn't thought of, as far as the name of the album wasn't really thought of until the song came along. So we just cool thing. It's kind of what we've done with the last couple is just the last two we had the song and we were like, yeah, that kind of sounds like a cool name for the album as well. So and it's kind of I sort of felt it from the very beginning that this was sort of like the opening track for the record anyway, and so it just kind of made sense. The idea of it is, basically, and I've talked about this before. I don't like to get political, but I like to kind of dip my toe into things that are going on in the world, and I don't point fingers at anybody, but like the idea of it is sort of like the people behind the veil, the ones, the puppet masters, the people that are pulling the strings. So that's kind of the idea of who the new messiahs are, the people that are in powerful positions. And of course, if you're in a powerful position, you're going to think that you're the reason that you got there, you're sort of exalted, right? So whether it be through, whatever it is, you're probably going to have an idea that you've got the best ideas for, humanity, and you're going to sort of push that agenda, right? So whatever side of the spectrum that you're leaning on, everybody probably has that idea that there are people out there that are kind of controlling and pushing the buttons and pulling the strings and whatnot. So and I did it from the concept or the idea of the song is I'm singing from that perspective. Like, of course I know what's best for everybody. And so like the lyrics are a little bit tongue in cheek in a lot of respects, but it's just kind of the angle that I wanted to go with it, because I thought it was cool. It kind of, a lot of like the Iron Maiden stuff that I really loved. They were kind of cheeky like that, using sarcasm and things like that to kind of put across the message. And I just kind of dug that idea with it. And Freddie wrote some really, really cool freaking riffs for the song. And it, I just thought what I was writing and what he was writing just married really well together. And so, just turned out to be that was the lead track. And then of course, it's a cool concept. We thought it would be cool for the title of the record. And it sort of goes kind of hand in hand with the last record with Emperors and Fools. So there's some themes that kind of run in between records and themes that run in between songs and things like that. We haven't done anything conceptual really ever before, but there's certainly some themes there.
That's awesome. Tell me a little bit about the Ashes of Aries recording process and how it differs from recording with Iced Earth, for instance.
Well, the big thing would be a budget. We don't have the Iced Earth style budget, or size of budget. Freddie and I do kind of things on a shoestring because we're just really happy that we have a record label that supports us financially in some way. So we try to do everything that we can to make it not so much of a burden on our label, and we just try to do it smart. And we don't, we're not necessarily from a generation that grew up with a bunch of gear and a bunch of recording gear, and so we're sort of old school. So we do the best we can with what we can in our home studios, and then then we have to take it to a real studio, for the mix and mastering and all that other good stuff, and of course for drums. You're gonna get the best sound in a studio. But we do the best we can. Like I said, we really put in most of our hours are done in our home studios, and reason being is because we just don't have the kind of budget that we can go into a studio for long periods of time and do things. So yeah, so we just do the best that we can with what we got, and I think that with what we're doing, I think it actually makes really good sense, obviously financially, and it just makes sense for us in my career. I don't have a lot of time to take off to do like a whole studio gig and all that. So I do as much work as I can in the home studio, and I can do it whenever I can, or whenever I want to. If I'm feeling good about singing one day, then I'll go out there and, knock out a bunch of stuff, and then, take a couple of days off, and then go back out there and do it again, and the way that Freddie and I work, we just share files back and forth because he lives in all the way across the country. So, and, it's worked for us for, 3 records now, doing it that way. So it's really it's kind of what we've known for the last 3 records. The first record was more in studio, sort of, kind of, but we just don't have the budget, to do a full recording in the studio. So
that's understandable. But were you saying that you guys actually do like the final tracks at home and then just bring them to the studio for the mixing and mastering, minus the drums, or do you guys actually like do a final take?
Yeah, no, we do all of our final stuff at home. The only thing is, like Freddie will record all of his guitars, but he records the MIDI, so then he can just go into the studio and reamp. So it's the same thing. It's the signal going through a live amp in the studio. It's the exact same thing essentially.
That's cool. I didn't realize that. When you were doing the the talking about it at the meadery at Brimminghorn, I mistakenly thought that you said you guys had gone into the studio for those final takes. It was just the drums. That's impressive, man. That's cool.
Yeah, and because it just
wow.
Again, we kind of have to, because it's just a lot,
Practicality, sure.
Practicality, 100%. So we have to do it that way. And there may be some things here or there that we'll do in the studio, finishing touches, but
tweaks or whatever, right?
Yeah, but primarily, like all my vocals I do in my home studio, and then just give them the files, and Byron makes them sound pretty.
That's awesome.
Very cool.
So how do you balance having a real job and doing mini tours?
Well, I mean, that is the balance, I guess, just doing mini tours, because it just makes the most sense for what we've got. And, as my career's gone on, I have more responsibilities. It's harder to kind of be for longer periods of time. Back when I'd gone back to Iced Earth in 08, I wasn't where I am in my career, so I could take off, larger bits of, time and things like that. And, I was patrolman, and, we had coverage and things like that. And I just can't do that now, because I'm more in the administrative realm. So
fair.
Yeah. So it's tougher to do. So that's why we can, maybe do it in chunks, but not in I can't do like a month, like before, there, I could take 12 days off, come back and work 4 days, and then head back out for another 12 days, and we did that a lot.
It's pretty tough too.
Yeah, that was tough. And yes, and I was a younger person then too, so I don't know that I physically do that anymore. That's just a lot.
Yeah, it's like a lot of no time off at all.
Exactly.
Yeah. I mean, I literally would fly in, after doing 12 days, I'd fly back in, drive from the airport, to get back home, to get a couple hours of sleep, to get up, put my uniform on, and go on to work for 4 days. And then
that's some rough sauce, man.
That's tough.
I was back on a plane and flying out. So it was crazy. And the guys were over in Europe waiting for me, so it was weird, it was probably tough and cool, tough for them, and a little bit cool too, because they sort of got to got to vacation a little bit, I guess. And I think
Soak it in a little more while
probably off promo or something like that. And so like Freddie and Brent, and Troy were hanging out in Europe for, 4 or 5 days, and then, bang, right back into another show. So it was definitely hectic. But it was weird, but it was cool at the same time.
Yeah, I mean, you got to make it work, right?
Yeah, and I mean, really it's pretty extraordinary, actually. I never had to like call in my boss and say, "Hey, boss, I got held up with a at the airport or something like that." He was, I never had to do that. All my flights hit right and all that. Well, except one time, I will tell you the story. This is an interesting one. So I got stuck in Newark, and
Of course, Newark.
I was waiting for a plane ride to go from Newark to because I flew in from somewhere in Europe, waiting for the plane, my connecting flight to Baltimore, because that's where my car was.
Mm-hmm.
And so apparently they were slowing things down because of weather and all this other stuff. And I called Heather and I said, "Hey babe, just set up a rental car for me in case this flight doesn't take off." And so she did. And I was sitting there waiting, and they're like, "Okay, we're going to get on this plane." And got on this plane, and this woman who worked for the airline was doing she was a flight attendant or something. And she was getting ready to, or we were getting ready to take off. And I said, "Well, I guess I'm going to call my wife and tell her to, stop that rental car." And she said, "Don't do that, because they're going to cancel this flight. I know they're going to cancel the flight." Because they have a thing where it's like, if it's like weather related or something, they can cancel it and they don't have to give anything back. So anyway, that's what they ended up doing. So thankfully I didn't. I was able to get that car that Heather had booked. I jumped in that and I drove from Newark all the way back home to then work.
Oh.
And then 2 days later, I had to go to Baltimore to pick up my car. That was
That's a tough drive.
That's rough, man.
it was crazy, but it was it was good that it worked out that it did, and I didn't have to take any time, because that's the one thing I didn't want to do was anger my boss.
Fair.
Yeah.
You never want to do that.
Yeah, I didn't want to do that, because then that whole thing would potentially go away. So
Right.
that was that was with it. Yeah.
Good on Heather for the foresight there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, she was my she was my organizer, has always been my organizer for sure. But certainly for those that touring time, because it was it was good for us. I was making a little extra money as well on those. Well, I made quite a bit of money on those on those tours, especially when I went back.
Imagine.
Financially helpful for us, because we had two little boys at that point, so it helped.
Oh yeah.
So what got you into singing, and have you always been a metalhead?
I can't say that I've always been a metalhead. I pretty much became a metalhead when my brother brought it home. He introduced me to metal, my oldest brother. But I always liked music. I always like, sang along to stuff. I remember just, I used to spin my dad's old 45s for sure. He had, everything, Elvis Presley, Carl Perkins, Fats Domino, all the stuff that he grew up with. And, he had those on 45s, and I'd have my little record player, and I'd spin those and kind of dance around and do the whole Elvis thing. And, I remember I really liked when I was growing up, like my mom would play the radio in the car, and I'd always liked the Carpenters,
Love
Carpenters World, that song. So I would sing that kind of stuff, and so I would always kind of sing. And then I got into chorus and stuff in school, and then I started working out with this band. We had kind of like a stage rock band in school, and I was like one of 20 singers. We had a kind of a core band, a couple drummers, a couple guitar players, piano players or keyboard players and stuff, and it was just like kind of like a group ensemble. And I took on the I don't know if you guys ever remember the movie was it Blue Thunder with the helicopter?
I never saw that one.
Never saw
I mean, I'm a pretty big cinemaphile, but there's sadly
Roy Scheider. Got to watch it. It's like, cops with a basically an armored freaking helicopter. But anyway, they called him Jaffo, which was just another fucking observer, right? So Jaffo. So I took on the name Jaffs, which was just another fucking singer, and because I was like one of 20 people, right? But I started getting into that more, into the band and the stage band kind of thing, and then formed another band with some of the guys that were in that band. So we had a band called Celtic, and it was more of a rock and metal kind of a band. And then I started. We had another name of a band. I can't remember if it was Tainted Halo was before that or after that. But anyway, I sort of lose it in chronological order. I'm kind of screwed up. But and then my brother and I started playing in a band together. We had a band called Cauldron, and we did some demos and stuff. Those have been floating around a little bit on the interweb. But yeah, so we were definitely a lot more thrash metal kind of oriented. My brother Jim really liked death metal as well, and maybe that's like Freddie's big death metal guy, and that's
right.
Maybe sort of the connection that I have with Freddie as well. You know what I mean? And kind of the way we approach songwriting, and all of the things that we really loved growing up, and the sounds that we liked. So yeah, yep. I mean, probably I'd say 1983. When I was 13 or something. That was probably really when I started like listening to metal. I mean, that's when Kill 'Em All broke, and it was really it was all kind of changed my world at that point. But and then I started listening to more stuff, back catalog stuff from the 70s and early 80s and things like that. And yeah.
That's usually when everyone does, around everyone's teen years, they discover metal.
Right. Yep.
And then there's usually some backtracking too, looking at your father's generation, grandfather's generation. I've definitely got a lot of that too.
Yep.
So what was it like to audition for Iced Earth? I was actually hearing John's side of the story the other day, and I was curious to hear your perspective on it.
It was kind of tough because at that time, that was after John Greeley had left, and I think at that point, like John was a little bit gun shy about getting somebody new, and there was all kinds of trouble with the record label and things like that he was having with Century Media because he was trying to renegotiate contract, and they were kind of being not great about it. I mean, it's perspective, obviously, where you are, but it took me probably about 6 months or something before I got the, okay, you're in kind of a thing, cause I kept trying out and things like that. I mean, I got turned on to Iced Earth, by Rodney Beasley, who was the drummer, for On Burn Offerings. And he had known me from another band, when he was down in Bradenton area, and me and my brother's band and his band were working out in the same storage facility. There was like, I don't know, 5, 6, 7 bands that had storage facilities down there in Bradenton. And, you basically, that's what you do in Florida. You go to your, after you get off work, you go to your storage facility, throw open the door, and just start jamming. Yeah. And so everybody kind of knew everybody's stuff, and, everybody would check out everybody else and see what they were doing, and, what they looked like, and, how they were doing things. And it's kind of weird because, like with Rodney, he had a band that's probably a little more progressive metal, his singer had a, really high range voice and things like that. Did more, I don't want to, I guess maybe, maybe Fate's Warning meets, Iron Maiden meets, Queensryche or something. That's kind of the way where he was. And it's weird because that singer had died. I think he died in a car accident, and it was not too far after, too far before. I think that Rodney must have gotten in with Iced Earth, and I would imagine that if things hadn't gone, badly for him, he certainly could have been the guy that Rodney suggested. So it's just weird the way that things happen, and I think about that kind of stuff, because it's like, what are the odds? What are the odds that even Rodney even remembered me or even thought about me? But like, he came to one of our shows. Me and my brother's band. He came to one of our shows and watched the show, and we hung out afterwards. And he goes, "Hey, I'm kind of here for a reason, because I told Jon Schaffer, who's he runs Iced Earth. I told him about you, and I told him I thought it would be cool if you came up and auditioned." And so I said, "Okay, well, I'll do that." So I went up and auditioned, and it was good. I mean, it was like, we hung out. I can't remember really if Rodney had like given me some CDs or what, or if it was maybe John did when I got there to hang out and talk. And because I think maybe it was a talk first, but I mean, it's a lot of years ago, so I don't remember all the specifics. All I remember is it seemed like an awfully long time before John said, "Okay, you're in."
It's crazy the way things work out sometimes.
Yeah, that sounds like pretty much his story too. That it was a lot of auditioning.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's, it was just, I think the thing is, he wanted to make sure it was, I was somebody that would get along, and could do the job, but also, get along and be, kind of part of the process. And I think it worked. I think it worked out. So I think
It absolutely did.
Hell yeah.
Definitely.
What made you start Ashes of Aries after your departure from Iced Earth?
Well, kind of, Freddie, because I was like, I was cool. So Freddie and I had, even before, I had left, because Freddie and I hung out a lot. When we were touring, I mean, we were probably the guys that hung out the most, because John was here and there and everywhere. He was promoting and doing this and flying there and doing that. So when we were on tour, Freddie and I hung out a lot, and we talked about doing something different or whatever, maybe outside of the band, and but time and everything else just wouldn't necessarily have worked out.
Sure.
So. After I departed, Freddie went on to do the next record with John and the guys, and went on to do the tour to promote the record and all that. And they went all kinds of places. And then after that, Freddie was like, I can't commit to that, because he's got a whole other career. He's a civil engineer, and so after that, he was like, "Hey, I'm not with Iced Earth anymore. You want to, put some stuff together?" And I said, "Sure." So he's like, and he knew I had a small recording rig at home, because I did like demos for Pyramids, I did demos for Iced Earth, and I did all that stuff from my house. So he came over and just took a look at what I had, and basically he just kind of mimicked that. He just got exactly the same kind of stuff that I had, and then of course, as we've gone on, we just typically buy the same stuff, so we have the exact same rigs. I think it just makes it easier, and we both are kind of Pro Tools guys at this point. So, but yeah, that's kind of how it started. Just basically, we were both free to do stuff, and we knew that it was going to be with limitations. We both have careers that don't necessarily allow us to tour all the time and do a bunch of stuff. So it just made sense for us to do that, and I think that's worked out pretty well as well. So
Yeah, I mean, so far, you 4 albums deep, and You know, at the brewery, you had people coming from Europe.
Yeah, at least that one guy.
Yeah.
Well, Europe and Michigan. So, you know.
Yeah.
That was crazy.
Here's to our friends from Michigan.
Absolutely.
People coming from far and wide.
Yeah, he commented, because we mentioned it on our last podcast. He's like, I'm the guy from Michigan.
Right. Oh, that was awesome though. And that's, you know, that's what I was hoping would happen, because they basically just rolled it into a vacation. I mean, and that's what, you know, that's what Heather and I do. I mean, heck, that's what we did for our little Southwest tour.
Right on.
We could
Yeah, we really enjoyed our mini vacation too. It was just such a nice area.
It was.
We couldn't believe it. So
Yeah.
thank you
Yeah,
for
it was
that.
great. Great.
got the beach, guys. You know, come on. You know, we've actually got some really nice beaches here. I mean, I'm not like a beach person. I actually enjoy the beach more in the wintertime, but we do have beautiful beaches here.
I totally hear that. It's more open in the wintertime.
Yes. Yep. It's cool.
You're not fighting for a parking spot. There's always, you can walk around.
Yep. And we have some nice, actually, we got some really nice state parks as well, besides Cape Henlopen, which is right there at the beach, which if you camp or whatever, you can camp there. But we also have some other things inland here, like Trap Pond is one that we really like to go to. We pull our camper over there and we camp out a lot, kayak, you know, it's nice. It is a good area. But yeah, that's one of the ways that we were able to do our Southwest tour a couple of years ago was we kind of turned it into a little bit of vacation. So, you know, we used our family vacation money to kind of help finance part of it. We got our minivan, which we were then able to carry some stuff along with. But you know, I took Heather and the boys out there, and yeah, and it was cool. I think somebody had mentioned something about that, about how it was taking your kids on tour with you. And I'm like, well, I think it's pretty funny. I mean, it was pretty fun and funny, because one of the things outside of one of the shows, there was a lady who was very, very drunk, and she was having some sort of domestic with her boyfriend, because her boyfriend was hanging out with some other girl or something like that. And she came over and she was getting all belligerent, because we were just sitting in the van, like waiting for, you know, Freddie to settle up with the house and all that other good stuff. And she comes over and she's like, "What are you looking at?" And so I exposed my children to that, you know. She's fairly harmless. She was just angry, you know.
Yeah.
Like, well, wow.
That's
Yeah.
what happens. I take my son, you know, as you saw at the meadery, I take my son to a lot of things too. So he's seen things like that too.
Yeah. I mean, well, I mean,
The school of life.
that's life.
Yeah.
These
I
things.
mean, he's been on stage with us when we were, you know, doing shows for the Order of the Rose, the Ice Earth tribute band.
Yeah.
He never wanted to. He's like, I don't want to. Like, even though my mom would be there and stuff, he goes, I don't want to stand in the audience. I said, just sit on stage with us. You don't have to bother with anybody.
Yeah, he'd sit on the drum riser in front of me. So
His little headphones on.
yeah.
And then he would put, whenever we would do certain songs, he would put like masks on and stuff. So he'd kind of like a little mascot.
Yeah.
On the song Jack off a horror show, did you get that from like a movie or a book, or is it just the lore in general?
Kind of the lore in general, but I think I was probably inspired a little bit by a movie, a movie called Time After Time. Do you remember that movie? It was about H.G. Wells had invented the time
I
machine
think so, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
by Jack the Ripper.
Right.
Mhm.
And I think that was one of the things about that character, if I'm not mistaken, was that his, you know, he had a thing for like prostitutes, and the reason was because he had some deep trauma from his childhood or something.
Yeah.
So yeah, I sort of took the lore from that. But that movie is, I've really always loved like the H.G. Wells stories, and then they combine it with Jack the Ripper on top of it. I was done.
Yeah.
That was a really, really cool movie. And so, yeah, so, I mean, a lot of that stuff is just, I just kind of made it up. Kind of same thing with Dragon's Child. You know, it really has not so much to do with the with the cinema of the creature from the Black Lagoon, which, you know, that was made for cinema, right? But I wanted to do a backstory, like of what, you know, if there were Amazonians, you know, people, you know, tribes in the Amazon, and this was an actual creature, what would their lore be? And that's kind of what I wanted to go with. So something completely kind of off the wall. You know, I didn't want it to be exactly like, I wanted it to be more like an Elseworld kind of a story of what the creature from the Black Lagoon is, because, you know.
Nice.
Very cool.
That was awesome. Oh, yeah. I know you said this before, but I can't remember. Where did the name Ashes Varies come from?
Yeah, so Freddie and I and Van, actually, at the time, because we hadn't determined the name of the band yet before we had actually asked Van to become kind of a part of that. We were kicking different names around, and we just didn't really know. I mean, there were a couple things that I threw out there, and they were like, eh. And so I thought of Ashes Varies, and ironically, I guess, I wasn't the first one to think of it, because I did the Google search, and there was another band called Ashes Varies, and they weren't, let's say, they weren't as successful, right? You know, that they were known. They had some like a little page, or there was something on there, but they were, you know, I think they were kids, you know, so nothing copywritten or anything like that. So I was okay. But my idea of it was, I kind of like the double entendre kind of a thing. I love duality. I love it. You'll see it like a lot in my lyrics. I just like, you know, wordplay and things like that, and the dual meanings. And so the same applies with Ashes Varies for me, anyway. My version of what Ashes Varies means. It can mean two things. One of which is where humanity has reached a point where war is no longer necessary, and we've evolved beyond war. And so the ashes of Aries would be actually the ashes of Aries. The god of war would no longer exist. He would be dust. The other side of that is where man has continued on the path that we tend to continue on, and we are warring, and then, you know, the ashes is humanity, you know. So it's
hopefully not the latter.
Yes, hopefully not, but, you know, that it could go way, right? That's kind of the point. We are given choices as humans, right, to make choices, and sometimes we don't make the right ones.
Not at all.
Yeah.
I've made my share of mistakes.
Yeah, that's a pretty interesting duality there.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
I love it.
Yeah, I like that. I basically got one more question for you, Matt. And I was just being a NASCAR fan. I was just wondering, how did the opportunity of you singing the national anthem come about at the Doper race?
Yeah. I was just asked by one of the coordinators. It was a tribute to Chad Spicer, who was our officer that was murdered in the line of duty, and it was just right after that. It was pretty much right after that, and so I can't remember exactly who knew that I sang. I mean, I had done some things, some other performances for memorials and things like that before, but then somebody reached out to me who was one of the NASCAR coordinators and said, we'd really like you to come and sing in honor of your fallen brother. So that's how that happened.
Right on.
I just want to say you did a great job with that.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, really great. Really great.
Beautiful work.
Nice looking shirt you got on there, man.
Thank you. Thank you. I actually got at the listening party, and that's what the next question is. Were you happy with the way the listening party went?
Yeah, I was really kind of over the moon, man. I mean, I thought it was a really great turnout. I wasn't really sure what to expect. We've had some events there before, but this was just really cool, and I really liked the way it went down. I want to thank Ray Hunter for being the guru of sound and bringing his set up. Those guys, by the way, and I'll hype their new record. Look for Bastion's Wake. They've got a new record they're putting out now. Actually, I don't know if they did a GoFundMe with all the bonus stuff, vinyl and all the packages, kind of like John and I did for the Winter Nights. They're doing the same thing, and I think that there'll probably be things that will, be for sale outside of that as well. But yeah, support them if you can, because
Yeah, those guys are awesome.
they're really cool people. So yeah, so Sammy and Ray are awesome. Anyway, yeah, I thought it was cool, man. I thought it was really cool, and thank you to John as well, to John and JR from Brimminghorn Meadery, which, by the way, oh, here you go. There's Brimminghorn Meadery. There you go. There's a little.
And their meat is incredible.
Hell
It
yeah.
is.
So tasty.
Their beer is pretty tasty too, because that's what I was having that night, and
Yeah.
definitely did the trick.
Yeah, we
We're all
had
ha-
everything on
we're
the
all-
menu. We did the full flight.
Yeah, between the three of us. But,
Nice. Yeah, I think it's really good stuff. I mean, I think I've forgotten parts of that night because of that beer. Like certain things, but I think in the big scheme of things, I think it was a really cool turnout. Had a lot of really good friends from my professional world as well. Came out and supported us, which was really pretty touching. Because I don't like really broadcast my music in my professional career. So when people that are in my professional career come out and support me, it's really kind of touching as well. So I think
feel that.
all those guys as well. Yeah. So and then people coming from far and wide, man, it was really great. It was great to see you guys. So happy that
see you too.
it was really a blast. I think Freddie was pretty touched by that as well. So it's cool stuff.
Oh yeah, he came up to us, greeted us warmly. That was awesome.
Yeah, we had friends from actually shout out to the Duggars, my friends the Duggars. They came. I don't know if you guys talked to them or not, but they were over from the Tennessee area.
Oh
And
wow.
they came a long way too.
That's a long way.
Yeah. They surprised the young man Gaston. They tricked him into thinking he was going to he does like first responder stuff, EMT, like he's field work. Like I don't know exactly all the stuff that he does, but it's like pretty much survival type stuff. And he thought he was going over to a training in Virginia, and then they took a sharp left turn.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, it came up, kind of tricked him a little bit, but yeah, hopefully they had a good time as well. So
I'm sure they did. So Matt, your main career is law enforcement, and for you, I think music is more like a secondary job. Do you think that's going to become more common because of the way the business works? Do you think that's
Yeah, I think it is. If you're not a band that can tour all the time, just because that's where the money's at, man. Either you're gonna tour and make money, or you're gonna maybe tour and not make money and just live off ramen noodles or something. But I don't know, and it's sad in a lot of ways, because people used to be able to make money off of recording, selling songs, and selling intellectual property, and that was a tangible thing back in the day. Well,
those days are gone, unfortunately.
Yeah, you truly tour to not only support the record, but to support yourself, if that's what you're going to do, or you end up in a situation like mine, where you do records because you love doing it, but you're not going to be able to tour, and you're not going to make money on it, because that's just we don't make money doing this. We put out money. Like I'm legit when I said I took my family on vacation so that we could tour. That the good chunk of that came out of my wallet. We could rent the van, we could buy hotel rooms and stuff like that. That was not in the band budget. It was like I was able to do it because I could link it into a family vacation. So it is what it is. I mean, I'm not complaining about it. I know that there are people out there grinding and eating ramen noodles and stuff like that. I'm not making fun of that at all. I get the passion, and I get that people are have a passion for it, and they do what they do. They do what they got to do get their music out there. And if it's, starving for a while, most musicians have done that at one point or another.
That should not be the way it is, but
it shouldn't, but it is because when you devalue, what people do, then that's what happens. Right.
Yep.
So, and that's what's happened, that's essentially what happens with, I mean, I'm sure that there's a method to it as far as, putting out records at certain times and things like that. But when you put it out there and the second you put it out, it's all over the internet, and you can't really control it, and people are grabbing it.
I make it a point to still buy CDs and physical.
It sounds better anyway. That's
Yes.
That's the one thing that annoys me when people talk about, the production. Well, it's like, bro, are you listening to it as an MP3? Because it's not great production, and I don't care what anybody.
It sounds like shit.
Even worse, they're listening to it on YouTube or something.
You get super compressed.
You can put a treatment on a song or a record to make it sound better on MP3, but it's not the same. It just does not sound the same as physical copy. And
yeah, agreed.
I feel bad for people that's all they've grown up with listening to is MP3s, because you're really missing out on a lot of greatness in the tone of the music, in the nuances of the tones. And I just urge everybody, please get, if not vinyl, at least CD. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Then there's get all the artwork, and it's nice to have the physical music in your hand.
Correct.
Oh yeah.
We all got the sad news last week that Ozzy has passed away, and that being said, you're looking at his legacy. Do you still think people will listen to him in 100 years? And do you think people will still listen to your music in 100 years?
I hope on both accounts. That would be great. I don't know, man. I don't know how to even answer that, really, because I can't really know. I mean, I know people still listen to classical. I know people still listen, to all kinds of music, jazz and blues and 50s rock and doo-wop, and they listen to all that stuff. It's out there. To what extent, I don't know. I do feel as though heavy metal's had a pretty good longevity. There have been hills and valleys as far as its popularity. But it's in the big scheme of things, I think heavy metal has had a pretty good run so far, and I think it's back on an upswing.
Muse just dropped a new single, and the verses are kind of like pop electronica sounding, but then the choruses in the bridge section are played like on a 7-string, and it's really heavy. And it's not the only band that I've seen in the pop circuit who are using sounds from metal. And I think regardless of how you feel about those bands, that act of doing so perpetuates the genre more.
Sure. Yes, I think it does. And I think what it ends up doing, and we've seen this quite a bit, even the new metal stuff. So the new metal, quote new metal bands that were out in the early 2000s or something.
Yeah, late 90s, early 2000s.
Yeah, so they even kept it kind of going, and then then they would listen to that, and then their kids are now listening to other bands that inspired those bands, and so it's just I think it's just a back and forth, and I think that's one of the cool parts about it. I just think there's something about heavy music and that heavy sound, electric guitar and drums and just driving whatever it is, and the cool thing about the metal thing is that there's all kinds of subgenres in there, and then so then you get to pick what of those you like. I think I don't know, man. I think it's just cool. Like Volbeat, my friend Michael's in Volbeat. Obviously, they've taken those heavy, death metal and thrashy riffs and things like that, and incorporated them into something that's typically, more radio friendly.
Yeah,
but
no, absolutely. They've done a
those
fantastic
guitar
job.
tones, man, are just ripping. You know what I mean? And so it just, it's just cool, man. I think it is. I think it just keeps it alive, and you can be inspired by, so many different things, and then you end up kind of going back, and now I see a lot more bands doing more of a traditional thrash or whatever. Yeah, it's just cool, man. I hope that there's enough room in the future for music like this.
Well, I gotta say, I mean, one of my main things is I'm a music teacher, and every season I work at one of the School of Rocks, and every season we do like between 5 and 7 different shows, right?
Nice.
Varying from like classic old school Motown to best of the 2000s to modern metal to classic metal to funk. I mean, it's really like we do everything, right? But I see the kids at the school anywhere from ages about 8 to 18, and all of them find something in all of those different genres that they can connect to, right? Even if they're not a huge fan of the genre in total, by being forced to at least play through some of the music and learn the parts, they usually wind up finding something that they can connect to. So I've yet to see any kid in the music school not find something in metal that hasn't, connected with them.
That's cool. That's good. That makes me feel good for the future then.
Yeah, absolutely. What is it like to perform Dante's Inferno live?
It's a lot.
Have you ever felt, like were there times where you were worried you weren't going to remember like parts or when to come in with certain things? Because I mean, 17-minute epic is a lot to undertake.
No, well, man, I mean, we used to practice our asses off, for sure.
That helps.
Yeah, I mean, you guys have met Jon, right? So
Yep.
you know who he is. You know how intense he is, and that's that's the way we ran practices, and that's the way that we rehearsed, and we did all of our prep for tours. It was always very much, very very professional always, and that was one of the coolest things that I really appreciated about Jon. And I'm because look, I kind of like order, law and order.
Fair enough.
So I'm that guy too. So I like having that structure and having shit tight. I like having things really tight because at the end of the day we're people are paying to see us, right? So we got a job to do, and we want to do it the best we possibly can, and that's the way that we think. That's the way Freddie and I think too. When we're performing, whether we're performing on a record or we're performing live, we got a job to do. We're trying to produce something that somebody can really appreciate, and they can see that we put the work in. So that's really important. It was certainly important for Jon back in the day when we were touring together, and I always appreciated that because we didn't bullshit around on stage. We weren't getting drunk or high or any of that crap. We were doing the work, and
and that's how you do it right. 100%. Yeah, drilling it out I mean, that's definitely going to make it an easier task to undertake. Because if you got people who are fucking off on the job and not doing things right and losing their spot and getting too inebriated before they're even on stage, is not going to be conducive to a good performance.
Yes,
Right.
Every musician's been there.
It's part of your job. Yeah.
Every musician's had to deal with someone like that.
Yeah, no, of course. We've all had it at some point, whether it be early in our careers or whatever. But if you're a musician, you've definitely had people that, they could be a great talent, man. But if they can't keep their shit together and they need to have, 3 hard drinks before they're even on stage, it's not going to last, If you were to pick between any of the Ice Earth albums, whether they were ones you were on or not, what would you say is your personal favorite?
Well, it's going to be one I'm on, man, because
Of course.
Yeah, fair enough. But
Of course.
want it to be all inclusive.
Yeah, because that's I put my heart in every record that I've ever been on, whether it's Iced Earth, Ashes of Aries, Pyramaze. I put my heart in it, and so I'm connected to those records. So that's, and it's really hard, man. It's really hard to pick a record that was, because I've got obviously my first real studio record with Iced Earth was Burnt Offering, so that's got some sentimental value to it for me. It's certainly some of the negative undertones with what was going on with the band at the time, but at the same time, that was like my first break. I would say that Dark Saga was huge for me as well, because again, that was sort of like the rebirth, kind of like the light was introduced back into Iced Earth, I think, with that record, because it was just such a positive. We were in such a positive place. John and I were, at least, and where we thought that the band was heading. I don't know, man. It's just so many, and got Something Wicked. I mean, which was like another huge one for us, and just I don't know. And then here I am. I've got, with Ashes of Aries, we've got 4. This is our 4th record together, and it's crazy thinking about it. I'm looking back at it now. I've actually done more studio records since I've been in law enforcement than I did before I was in law enforcement.
Damn, that's impressive, actually.
Impressive, yeah.
It's, because I can't count the EPs and, compilations and all that other good stuff. Although they were still studio, even Days of Purgatory was studio for me, even though like a lot of it was just redoing the vocals over top of already recorded stuff. But it's just a lot, man. Got a really big discography, so it's hard to pick.
Do you have any plans for any future projects? Anything else? Or I mean, that could even include more stuff from, say, We Are Sentinels or anything.
No, I don't, man, because again, time is like really limited, and
Yes, of the essence, of course,
is my main focus. I may have some guest appearance stuff coming up in a little bit, but I bag. That's it. That would be it. Just stuff that I could do at my studio. That's not going to take a lot of time to be able to do and perform and produce and things like that. So
kind of bouncing off of that, even if there's not anything that's actually, on a personal level, I personally really love the Schaffer Barlow project. We've gotten to the point where for the last, I don't know,
Every Christmas,
4 years in a row, maybe 5. It's just like one of the ones we put on rotation around the holidays, and we love it.
Yep.
So,
Big Christmas album.
Yeah,
love it.
And Halford did a couple, and I was curious, even if there's not anything planned, not even any discussions, but for you, would you have any interest in potentially doing another in that same vein with John? Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't have any issue, but I don't know that that's in the cards for us at the moment, but I certainly wouldn't have any issue with that. Right on. I really enjoyed that record as well, and I think it's it's got a nice cool tone to it. It gives it a different vibe for people who are metalheads that may not necessarily like all of the certain canned tones of the holidays. Sometimes they
Yes
have a certain sound. Well, this kind of gave a cool different kind of vibe to it.
Yeah, no, I mean it hits great on the holidays, man. Especially if it's snowing out. It's just like it's still respectful, I think, to the season.
Yes.
And it I think it just pays tribute for something that's little and even that with that Jonah and I with We Are Sentinels, we did like a holiday little trilogy in there, the winter trilogy. And those are the kind of things that I do enjoy. I enjoy, actually, I listen to a lot of different stuff during the holidays, and I like people's interpretations. I've listened to like the REO Speedwagon Christmas, and I really Brian Setzer Orchestra stuff. I mean, I've actually got that one too. Yeah, I love it. I love like all the different interpretations of holiday music and even the the original holidays music stuff. So yeah, just appreciate it.
Yeah. Those two albums are good back to back. The We Are Sentinels and the Winter.
Yeah.
They're good
They
back
flow
to
pretty
back.
well together. I
Yeah.
agree. Yeah. So the last one that I had was kind of coming off of your explanation of the song Atrophy when you were talking about the lyrics at the listening party, right? And you had mentioned how part of it is, your belief that we are destined to go into the stars, to really fully realize what it is to be human, to be part of the universe. And I found it fascinating and something that I definitely resonate with as well. And it was kind of evocative to me a bit of, some of the things that Carl Sagan has said on like Cosmos or whatever, even the introductory bit. So I was curious, if Sagan had any influence on your life at all, when it came out back in 80, 81. And secondly, if
Are you talking about Contact? Sagan's novel Contact, or
I thought
No, he's talking about the documentary series Cosmos.
yeah, for Carl Sagan. Contact is a great movie. Talking about the one with Jodie Foster.
Mhm.
Yeah, no, that's awesome.
It's a great movie.
What you were saying about the lyrics for Atrophy,
Yep.
for me, was a bit evocative of Carl Sagan's Cosmos, like the speech he does at the beginning.
Got you.
So I was curious if there was any inspiration on that front, and B, more so if you just could elaborate on it a little bit more, especially for people viewing the podcast who didn't get the pleasure of hearing you talk about it
Yeah.
at the brewery.
To me, it's sort of like to me, Atrophy is just a cautionary tale. I think that if we do not, if we go against our nature of exploration,
Mm-hmm.
hearing, I think that we will become stagnant and we will atrophy. That's I think that there's certain things that we have to understand in this world as human beings. We can do our best to save people, but we can't save everybody as we're moving forward. And that's with a lot of things, and we see that oftentimes. And it may sound cruel, a bit, but you can't save everybody. Otherwise, you end up potentially sacrificing humanity in
Sure.
whole. So we have to keep moving forward. And I know a lot of people say, well, why do we put so much money in this and that? And there are people that are starving. Yes, there are. And we should be able to figure out how to keep people from starving. And we should be able to figure these things out as we're moving forward.
Absolutely.
But we give up one to sacrifice the other. We have to continue to move forward and pioneer and push ourselves farther, because I do think that is our calling. I think we are designed to grow. I think we're part of the planet. I think that our planet is part of the larger universe, and I think that our planet is basically pushing us. That's one of the reasons why we do evolve, and yes, I do believe in evolution, but I think we are evolving as part of the planet to go out and go forth, and that's what we do as living creatures on here.
Yes.
On this planet. They're designed to grow and grow out and move out. And I think the exact same thing. I think that's what the planet has in mind for us.
Part of our nature. It's who we are.
Yeah.
I agree.
Being human.
Yeah. And I think that ultimately that will enhance our chances of survival as a race, as the human race.
Beautiful.
That actually ties in pretty nicely with your lyrics for The Hawk and the Dove, too.
True. Yeah. Yeah. Like I said, there's some themes that kind of run through, especially if I'm in a certain state of mind. So a lot of the themes will tend to resonate off of one another. So
Yeah. No, you can definitely see certain threads throughout a lot of the lyrics in the album that are at the very least probably coming from the same place, even if through different lenses.
Yep.
Okay, so now we have a couple of questions from the fans. So Michael asks, is your voice still the same or has it changed over the years?
Oh, it's definitely changed over the years, without a doubt. I don't think that you can't keep your voice exactly the same as when you're, I'm 55. It's not going to be the same as when I was 25. There's just no way. I think that I've done my best to utilize my voice in in the best possible way to present music, but it definitely changes. I think that every singer's voice does. And I don't think that I don't think that I'm the only one that would say that if asked. Rob Halford, I know his voice has changed.
Said things about it from Tool.
Everybody's voice changes to a degree, and sometimes you have to do some down tuning and things like that. Fortunately for me, I've been in bands like Iced Earth and Ashes of Aries, who we down tune anyway. So
The way to get around it.
yeah, exactly. But no, I do. I've got a natural bass baritone voice, as you can hear. So but I still work to do. I work, and so I can get the highs and do all that stuff. I run through my scales and I practice and on a regular basis. Well, I do find one of the things, and I did learn this from an early age. My sister-in-law, who was my one of my voice instructors early on, she told me that when she was an educator, she was a teacher. She actually taught voice, and she told me, one of the worst things that you can do for your singing voice is to talk. And unfortunately, that's what I've been doing a lot of lately, and that's what I do a lot of in my job. So it's really tough to get that balance, like know when to shut up, and it's one of the tough parts about being on tour, because you're out there and you're seeing people face to face, fans and things like that, and you're trying to, show them how much you appreciate them by speaking with them and talking to them. And sometimes you have to just go, I'm sorry, I can't talk because I've got to save my voice for the stage. And, so it's tough. It really is a difficult balance, because you're really tempted, especially, well, not only being on tour and talking to fans, but hanging out with your buddies that you never get to see, because you're never on, you never get to tour with them or hang out with them unless you're on tour.
Yeah.
It's being a responsible adult, you gotta do the right thing.
So I gotta interrupt real quick. John just texted me just to see how the storm's holding up over here. He says hello, Matt.
Yeah. Storming its butt off here. It was, at least, had that those big old raindrops coming down.
Yeah, I had to drive home from work in the middle of basically a monsoon.
Wow.
I couldn't even see the road.
Wow.
We got really lucky so far, but it's gonna start storming a little bit more, like in a little while. But it doesn't look like it's gonna be too serious over here in North
I think it
Jersey.
stopped down here.
Yeah,
It
I think
was
it's,
supposed to hit us harder than it did. We got lucky.
You guys aren't getting flash floods or anything, I hope.
No,
We're getting
We have
flood warnings.
yeah, we have a flood watch, but it doesn't look like it's gonna be too bad. Like 11-mile-per-hour winds, and
Yeah.
it really didn't
But
do not much activity so far. And
it was a state of emergency.
yeah, they sent everybody home.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I did all my lessons virtually for school.
Well, it's funny. Y'all getting all the rain, and we're burning to death over here. Every day this week's been about 115 degrees.
My heart goes out to you, Bill.
oh my gosh, I'm sorry. All right, so Michael also asks, what metal bands are you into, and who do you like as a metal vocalist the best?
Oh, I've got all kinds of folks that I've been in. And I go back to the 80s. The stuff that I was listening to. I was listening to a lot of Bay Area, obviously. James Hetfield, Metallica was huge in there. Chuck Billy from Testament. Anderson from Forbidden. And here's shout out to my buddy Norm Skinner, who's fronting Forbidden now. Jeff Tate. I mean, just like so many, just so many guys that I really enjoyed. And even I'll say guys, I'm gonna say gals. How about this? Pat Benatar.
Yeah.
Pat Benatar fan.
Nice.
So I mean that yeah, it just that was my era, I can't really. I'm not going to apologize for it. I won't.
No one ever asked you to.
Robert asks, what is your favorite Iced Earth song to perform live?
Oh boy, tough one. Tough one.
Like, what's the favorite album? It's a tough one, right?
Yeah. It really is. It really is tough. I mean, there's a couple ways of thinking about it. But like, Burning Times is, definitely classic because that always gets people going like right out of the gate. And I did that so many times. It's crazy, it's ridiculous, but people, that song resonates with people. And yeah, so apparently a lot of people are definitely into the Inquisition. I didn't know there were so many Inquisition fans around, but apparently there are. But like, another great one is like Question of Heaven, because it's just got really kind of all the cool mood to it and all that. And,
One of the greatest songs ever written, Matt.
Yeah, that's a killer track.
the fan favorite. And, of course the fans are, part of it. And yeah, it's just cool stuff, man. And then there's Dante's Inferno. So,
That whole epic.
yeah, lots of cool stuff. John writes great music.
Oh, yeah.
No doubt.
No doubt. Absolutely.
No doubt at all. I know I'm not going to pronounce this name right, so this person will have to forgive me. Lothar asks about your upcoming tour dates.
Okay, what about them?
I guess he wants to know the dates and where.
Yeah, I guess about them.
Yeah, as soon as I know the full list of them, I will say. I know we're playing a lot, different places. We are playing in Germany at a festival on October 4th. I do know that one because that's kind of like the anchor gig for this tour. That was kind of the one that kind of got us to be able to go over. So everybody else, please thank the promoters at Keep It True Rising. Oliver, appreciate you, man, for having us over for doing that. And then of course we've got several shows in Greece. One in Thessaloniki that we're going to be playing with the guys in Blind Guardian. So that's going to
be
awesome.
We got 2 back-to-back shows in Athens. So those are sold out. So that's pretty darn cool. We are playing Cyprus. Those guys are awesome as well. We're going back there again. We are playing Belgium, I want to say. Yes. I don't know all the dates. I don't have them all locked in my head at this point because it's all kind of fresh. But I do know those were several dates that I do know about. So as soon as I have those, I promise you they'll be up on the Ashes of Aries website, and I'll probably put them out on my personal page and professional page and all that other good stuff.
Cool.
I'll let you know as soon as we know.
Yeah, Mark asked, what artists are your favorite to tour with, and who would you like to tour with if you had the chance?
The favorite artists that I've toured with. Well, I mean, it's kind of funny because when I was in Iced Earth, I only toured with like a handful of bands. They were always Century Media bands. But guys, so Nevermore obviously, was one of my favorite. Sanctuary was one of my favorite bands as well. Whirl was always a big inspiration for me before I got into music professionally. So that was awesome touring with those guys as much as we did. Jack Panzer, again, they're phenomenal, just phenomenal people and musicians. So those are, we did get to tour with Sentenced as well, which great guys, great band, just absolutely phenomenal musicians. Yeah, I don't know, man. I mean, I really get along with everybody, so it wouldn't really bother me touring with anybody. I mean, we toured with a lot of people, a lot of different acts and things like that, and heck, as far as friends of ours, we've got friends in Queensryche. freaking love to tour with Queensryche. That would be awesome. But you know, they've got out touring all the time. It's like they're just constantly on the road. Yeah, Volbeat. I'd love to tour with Volbeat, but you know, those guys are out on the road all the time. So it's sort of hard to say, hey, who would you like to tour with? Yeah, I have all these fantasies of touring with all these different guys, but at the end of the day, we're not a band that can tour like they do. So you know, it's just not a possibility.
DM asks, how do you look back on your overall work with Iced Earth and Ashes?
Well, I mean, I'm proud of it, man. I mean, I look back at it with pride, and you know, I'm still in the thick of it. You know, obviously with Ashes. So, but I'm still very, very proud. I'm proud of what Freddie and I do. I'm proud of the people that support us and you know make us able to do this. It's huge, right? I mean, it's very humbling and you know just very yeah. I mean, you guys are trying to get me sentimental, you know, and I don't have enough to get that sentimental. So, but yeah, I mean, I'm very grateful. I mean, I'm very, very grateful. That's probably what I can say the most. Grateful for my time, grateful for people's acceptance of me and what I do. And, you know, sometimes I got, you know, kind of like, you know, pinch myself a little bit and go, you know, this is pretty amazing.
I hear you.
Yeah.
Bobby and Andre both are asking, does Ashes of Aries have any plans of performing in the States, specifically Dallas, Fort Worth, or San Antonio?
I would love to. That would be awesome. We had plans to do something a couple of years ago in Texas, and it fell through. I don't exactly know what happened, but it fell through. And so, yeah, I'd love to get back. I'd love to go to Texas and tour. You know, the last real kind of touring that I did there was with Iced Earth, and it is a huge freaking state. You don't even understand how big it is until you're there and you're touring. But it's great. It's a great place. Got a lot of fond memories of doing shows in Texas, and yeah, it would be phenomenal to do that. And we got to try to put something together on the East Coast as well. It's just a matter of, again, time and money.
Two things we never have enough of.
All right.
Jeff asks, do you have any cool tour stories?
Tour stories. Probably, but I've probably forgotten them.
I mean, that's pretty good.
I did tell you about the time when I subjected my juvenile sons to a drunk woman.
Yes, you did. You did.
I mean, that's a story that they'll never forget. They still talk about it. They the best thing ever. So, I mean, just no stories in particular as far as that's concerned, but just, you know, a lot of camaraderie and a lot of shenanigans, you know, especially with like with Nevermore. Okay, so you know, you do the end of the tour shenanigans with the bands that you're touring with, and we were playing, I can't remember where we were playing. I want to say, oh shit, was it Sweden or Belgium maybe? I don't know. I can't remember where it was, but we were playing this show in like a smaller. It was. I think it was like a local. I'm going to say like a civic center or something. It was kind of not huge, but not tiny either. Cool stage, nice stage, and all this stuff, and we were just doing stuff. And I think Nevermore opened for us. I think we were doing back and forth. You know, we were co-headliners or whatever, and I went up there. I think we were. Was it? And I'm trying to think. Oh yeah, it was. I think it was probably we were doing. We were opening the show with the Dark Saga, and you know the first line, you know, of the Dark Saga. You get up there, and you know, the deal was rigged, and you know, I got to get up there all like, you know, smoky with the microphone and all that other good stuff. Well, those fuckers had put the stinkiest freaking cheese, and it was I almost vomited because I was like I was getting up there, getting all like, you know, in my moment. I had my long hair, and I'm just like, I'm gonna just nail this. I'm just gonna, you know, and get up there, and I just take this whiff of this grossness that's on my microphone, and I about hurled. But yeah, that's the kind of stuff, the shenanigans, you know, that always the fun stuff. But or I can say this one, the night that we replaced the guys in sentence, they got 2 bottles of vodka a night, and we replaced the vodka with water. I've never seen somebody spit something so far when that first slug, and they're, you know, it's spat out because it was water, not vodka.
That's hilarious.
Those guys were hard freaking core guys from Finland. They're awesome. Yeah, good stuff. Just funny stuff.
Jacob asks, "What is your favorite riff that Jon Schaffer done?"
Jesus, man,
Tough question.
that's too hard, man.
That's fair.
That's you know, and I gotta say, probably some of the coolest stuff. Well, you know, frickin' Storm Rider, man. I mean, that like opening shit on Storm Rider is just freaking awesome, right?
Epic.
I wasn't even on that, but I will give props to Storm Rider. There were definitely some killer riffs on that record for sure. If you're talking about, you know, the galloping, you know, Jon Schaffer classic shit, there you go.
Next one we have is from Mike. Mike asks, there's a video from 70,000 Tons of Metal where you are singing Simple Man, but the phone it is being recorded on fails as soon as it kicks into the chorus. Would you please consider covering it, as I believe it would be amazing?
Yeah, I wouldn't be adverse to that. I used to sing that in karaoke all the time. Is that what it was? Was I doing karaoke or something?
It's a karaoke video, yeah.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't know.
Yeah, because I used to do that quite a bit for karaoke. Yeah, that would be a cool one. And I think that we had maybe thought about Simple Man at one point, but we didn't. I don't exactly know why we didn't do that. But we ended up doing, you know, the cover of Shooting Star, which is, you know, pretty cool in that same, you know, genre or that same era. So that was really cool.
Matt, I actually got to hear you sing that when you did it with Bastion's Wake, and
nice.
at the Meadery.
Nice. Yep.
It was like right before the pandemic hit.
Yep. Yeah. Well, that was kind of the crappy thing about I mean, and again, me being selfish, but I was like, you know, I turned 50 in 2020, and I thought, you know, I was like, man, this is the year, man. It's going to be the year. And then like a week after my birthday, like everybody's like,
it went to hell.
Yeah, the world kind of took a shit.
Yes.
But yeah, it was that was cool, man. That was a really good time as well.
We here at Podcast of the Wicked want to thank Matt Barlow for a really awesome and meaningful interview. We really enjoyed it. And we want to thank Ashes of Aries for the wonderful listening party that they threw in Delaware. Make sure to pick up your copy of New Messiahs. All of the links are below. And if you find it in your heart and you want to listen to some Christmas in July, it's actually August now, go on to icederthmerch.com and buy the Schaffer Barlow Project. I believe all of the records are autographed. Love you guys.